Hello and welcome to Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms, the podcast that provides you with all the latest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you are looking to substantially increase your caseload in the next 6 months, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's the host of our show, the local business guy himself, Frank Deming.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Deming of the Local Business Guy. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everyone. I hope you guys are having a rockin' week thus far. Today, I have a treat for you because I'm going to introduce you to the one, the only Jane of all trades. And of course, I am talking about the great Ray Greenip. And we're going to be talking about LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is her specialty, although she's the Jane of all trades. But I'll let her talk all about that. So anyway, how's it going, Ray? How are you so far?
I'm really good, Frank. I'm better now that I'm hanging with you.
Thank you. That makes me feel so good. First of all, Happy New Year. And I know that you know, a lot of good things are coming in the new year. We're going to get into all of that from a LinkedIn perspective. But before we talk about anything about LinkedIn, anything about, you know, any topics of helping attorneys get the best out of 2024, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So thank you for that warm and lovely introduction and welcome. So I'm Ray Greenip, and I am the fractional executive assistant, and I work in a number of areas, operations, business function, marketing, communications wise, with a number of business owners. And, you know, a lot of the work I do is in the marketing arena. For a couple of years, I was the CXO for a LinkedIn lead gen SaaS-based company. And so that's where I kind of got very specialized on the LinkedIn platform, doing profile optimizations and connection and reach out strategy for a number of broad, you know, various types of industries and various types of businesses and things like that. So that's where we thought that maybe we would get together and talk some LinkedIn.
Awesome. So before we get into the LinkedIn, I just want to educate the audience on something. Can you tell me where does the whole Jane of all trades come from? I know I alluded to that when I introduced you, but share that story with the audience. I think they will find it very intriguing.
Yes. So yes, there was somebody that said that term to me, and it was, you know, like a play on Jack of all trades. And they were like, oh, well, you know, you're really like a Jane of all trades. And I was like, yeah. Oh, I love that. And I shared that with Frank, and he loves nicknames and stuff. So we thought it was so cool, that kind of a thing. And the reason that's happened is just because I've worked fractionally for, you know, over 5 years, and I've worked with so many different businesses that I've just acquired a really large skill set that, you know, everything from, you know, multiple CRMs and all sorts of project launches and management has just kind of given me this really wide skill set. So that's where that Jane of all trades came in. And a friend of mine said, you know, and master of all. And I'm like, well, I don't know about the master of all the time, but I do my best. So
I can tell you that I agree with your friend, whoever said that. So
thanks. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Having worked with you in the past year or so, I can vouch. But anywho, let's move on. Let's talk about your latest trade.
Yeah.
and specialty is LinkedIn, and specifically, you know, what's your take on LinkedIn for attorneys? Do you think that's a good platform for attorneys to play in? And why?
Yeah. Well, you know, just the very professional nature of what their business is, or their industry is, it is important to have a presence on LinkedIn. And I would say that also spans all sorts of specialties. So you may say, like, well, okay, business attorneys or real estate attorneys, I could see that, but but somebody that's like personal injury or family law, like they're more that, not necessarily working with business types. But it's still, again, when you think of an attorney, you want somebody that's professional, right? Professional looking, going into court, and doing that legal piece. So I think that LinkedIn is important in the fact that, you want to show up on there so that you have a professional looking presence when somebody goes to vet you as a person. Like, even if they get your name from somewhere and they're Googling, Frank Deming, attorney at law, they need to see, some good professional things. And then, from a marketing standpoint, for certain specialities, there's, growing your network and mutual beneficial partnerships, right? Like connections that you can make on LinkedIn. So there's that piece of it as far as passing business, attorneys going with, title people and real estate people and like, those kinds of types of connections. But there also is appeal to, from a content marketing perspective too, there is some appeal there. And, people that are very strong in personal branding as attorneys, LinkedIn is a good place to be too, because there's plenty of professional people that need attorneys that hang out on LinkedIn, and that's their platform. I mean, for myself, right? LinkedIn is the platform I hang out on, because it's like, okay, social media to me is like business, and I like, gaining information and valuable insights really for my own business. So therefore LinkedIn is where I hang out. And numbers of people could be that way. So I think that, just as important as Frank, like you've talked about TikTok being actually a tool for attorneys, for as far as marketing as well. So it's kind of like every platform kind of has their angle and has their proper place as far as strategy. And like I said, at the very least, a presence on LinkedIn, I think, is important because of just that professional nature of what attorneys do.
Yeah, no, I agree. How important, because you also, one of the things when you talked about yourself a little bit, you mentioned, profile optimization.
Yeah.
Important is a LinkedIn profile in that platforms. And do you think is more important on that platform than any other social media platform?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hello there, listeners. If you're an attorney and you would love to be a guest on the show so you can promote your services to people that listen to the show and beyond, give us a call at 888-416-7752 or send us an email at podcast@lbmsllc.com. One of my associates in the podcasting team will send you an email and connect with you, schedule some time, send you the podcast intake form, and schedule you to be interviewed on the show. So if that's something that you really would want to do, go ahead and take one of those actions, and we'll take it from there. So until then, enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, it depends on, again, this is one of the things where, let's say you get your leads, like you've been in business, I don't know, 50 years, right? And, you're literally, your business is pure word of mouth. People know you in your town, like literally do not do any advertising other than like, being at community events or something, right? Mm-hmm. There's still a time and a place to at least have a profile on LinkedIn, because again, that, that person that just moved to town that so-and-so's telling, oh, you need, an attorney to do your will, like estate attorneys, right? Like you need an attorney to do your will. Oh, I've got the guy for you. Well, that person's going to be like, okay, great. But they're going to want to Google and look up that person and be like, well, who is this joker before I, make the appointment and pay him, $500 to do my, my estate paper, whatever. And that's where it's like, even if you don't have a website, but you have a LinkedIn profile that looks good and a nice professional headshot on there, and like talk, something that talks at length about, your experience and the fact that you've been part of the bar association for 50 years, and like, your stuff and your state and in your speciality, that person's going to be like, oh, okay, this person's legit. I'll go make the appointment. I'll go, so even in that case, that's where, there's something that's important there. For even people that, like I said, don't even maybe do any online marketing at all.
I know you play around in LinkedIn a lot, and you've seen, your share of profiles. And you give me your best estimate. What percentage of people have it correctly that you've come across?
I've seen it all.
I'm sure.
I've seen it all. And so let me first say I think what the question kind of is referring to, and to me, the big mark or opportunity that is missed with a profile is that, one, it's not updated. So it's literally somebody invited you sometime a while back to join LinkedIn, and you hit yes. So it's literally like there's no profile, like headshot, or what have you. But the opportunity missed there is for something to actually read and resonate with somebody that's going to be looking you up. So, i.e. your target audience. So, it's not necessarily getting it right, but it's using it for communication purposes,
right?
Really, to drive home a point on really what it is you do and why, and that's, a lot of people have the hard time of answering the question, why you and not your competition.
Yeah.
And that's that piece where, so many people, like, if I'm an attorney at law, like, I shouldn't be using that thing as a resume, unless I guess maybe if I'm looking to, okay, well, I'm not going to make partner here, so I'm going to try to switch law firms or something. I mean, I guess, that at that point, if you're looking for a job, you use it, it's more like a resume. But really what you want that to do is to showcase your work. And there's a way to do it for resume purposes, and there's a way to do it to resonate with a target audience. And those are the people that you want to be speaking to. So if you're not, looking to change firms and applying to jobs, it probably isn't going to serve you well to literally be your resume spit out on a LinkedIn profile.
Gotcha. But I guess my question was more geared towards like, for instance, let's say you have a photo and it's updated. What other issues, if you will, that you've come across that you can now optimize for someone? Like what? Because I know I've seen that too. I've seen people with a headless LinkedIn page, and that it always makes me kind of twitch a little bit. But and if it makes me twitch, I can imagine what it does to you. But anyway, I'm going to someone who has their together, if you will, has a photo, has some decent things. What do you think? What have you been able to tweak to help that optimize? Things like that is what I was asking.
Yeah. So and that's a great point and question is, like, so a lot of times people have done that the little bit, but the profile also has changed over time, and they're always adding new tools and things to do more with it. So that's where, I'd come in and it's like, okay, great. We have a professional headshot. We have like your experience that kind of like ties in, but then like a lot of times the about me, people get all thumbs about that about me section. So like either they'll throw in, like maybe their firm's page, a professional bio was written for all of the teammates, and maybe they'll just throw that in there. But the what I would do is actually delve deeper into kind of like their why for becoming an attorney, why their speciality too, like why um why family law and not uh you know personal injury or something. Like why are they, and why do they specifically want to work with families, and what are the, and then also dive even further, like ideally what are the ideal, like those client stories, if you think about like where have you loved to work, and then incorporate those pieces into like an about me that really speaks to like who they're going after, so it resonates with that real target audience and things like that. So also adding things like calls to action, where they can find out more, where they can, maybe if like their firm has a like a newsletter or something, we want to maybe push them over to subscribe to it, stay on top of blogs, whatever, whatever the case is. And then there's things like a featured section where you can actually feature posts. So even if the person isn't really active on LinkedIn, what they could do is they could feature a link that talks about them, like maybe they were published in, a local article or something. We'll link it there, or they won awards of some sort for their pro bono work. Mm-hmm. We could showcase some kind of landing page there, mm-hmm. and add these things where it's like, even if the person isn't having a posting strategy or outbound marketing strategy on LinkedIn, there's ways of like pulling this information together in a nice, organized way that somebody could go and be like, oh, wow, this person's impressive. And then there's things like different certifications. Again, mentioning, a lot of attorneys, they volunteer, they do pro bono work and stuff. And it's like, there's different places in the profile to be able to put all of that. Mm-hmm. And, with also like I said, calls to action with the link and everything like that. And then you've got your banner too. So it's like, maybe there's a tagline or a quote that they kind of like go by, or how they look at justice and the law or something, that would resonate with people and stuff. So put that on the headline. So people, are the banner rather. So people know exactly what they're going for. And that's the other piece too, is a headline. Just saying, Ray K. Greenup, ESQ, attorney at law. Okay, that's great. That's professional, but like, why you instead of like the other 10,000 attorneys at law in the greater Miami area, right? Mm-hmm. So then we like dive into that piece. Like, is there a tagline we can kind of come up with that really resonates delves deep into really what the heart of what you do? Yeah. And also like maybe there's some passionate causes that we can also add on there, like other pieces of your life that kind of like meld together. So people see that like you're a really good person. And like, people have that stereotype in their head of lawyers, like maybe with that headline, we can break through that so that people are like, oh, this guy I really would trust, right? That kind of a thing. So there's all those kind of moving pieces to it, filling out all the information. There's something to be said with the skills piece as well. Endorsements, recommendations is another big area that's like a big opportunity that is missed by a lot of people. It's like, even if it doesn't even have to be necessarily clients, so you're not like hunting down your past clients on LinkedIn, but it could be probably colleagues that you're connected to, people that you even went to law school with you, that mm-hmm. you're connected to on LinkedIn, that you would ask for a recommendation, people that are going to say genuinely nice things about you that go a long way.
Now, one of the things that I captured, if you will, from all of what you said is the fact of the matter is that personal branding is important. Yeah. Because everything you said as a marketer, I'm thinking those are all personal branding things, and it's you're highlighting the difference, because that's really the only difference between attorney A and attorney B is their personalities. So if you can highlight that personality, you're going to attract the right people that you want to do business with. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you want anyway. I mean, that's the whole thing too. It's like, in marketing, we always say, right, like about being as specific as possible. And it's like, yeah, sure, you could take a phone call from any Joe Blow in the, greater Nashville area and whatever, but it's like, who, your branding should be about like going back to like, who is the real specific person that you're trying to target here, and who's like your ideal client, and what does that complete avatar look like? Because, and then kind of building that piece out, like, and then going, okay, well, what solutions do I provide? What problems do they face? And what solutions am I really providing? And then coming at it from that kind of like backwards way on doing that branding. So, and then it being, it could be kind of like, I mean, anybody like other attorneys I've seen out there that have like really genius, professional branding, it seems like it's like they corner like one piece of what people don't want in their specialty, right? Like a divorce attorney that focuses on like, I help mediate conversations, as opposed to, I'm not here to be the person that you stab your your partner in crime and stabbing your soon to be ex-spouse, right? Like, and just stamping them into the mud and like all of that, because people have that kind of like stereotype of divorce attorneys, like these cutthroat people.
Yep.
And so, is really genius branding, because it's like, okay, if I'm just a simple person, things didn't work out, and like, now I need, legally we need to divorce and things. It's like, well, that's the kind of person that's going to resonate with me, because, I'm not trying to, get nasty about asset division and, all of that. So.
But, also moving in to add to that, it's also, if you are that cutthroat attorney,
right.
Share that. Right. That way they know what they're getting when they hire you, right?
And it's also about, and then you attract the right client.
Correct.
So it's like, if you want the reputation of being the best, the divorce attorney that shuts everybody down, gets the most for their clients, and, the go-to in LA, it's like, well, then your branding better reflect that, because then you want to attract the people that want that person.
Right. That's who you are, and just reflect it. That's what we're saying. That's good. That's good advice, and I agree with you. I'm going to switch gears a little bit in terms of getting out of the personal stuff, and I'm going to talk about posting a little bit within the LinkedIn platform. And I've been asked this question many times, and I am not the guru when it comes to LinkedIn. I'll let you know what I told them in a minute, but I want to hear your answer to this question. So I was asked, how important are hashtags? Well, I was asked two questions. Number one is, how important are hashtags in LinkedIn? And number two is, how important are images on LinkedIn? So I'll let you answer the first one first. How important are hashtags
okay. So the hashtag thing, LinkedIn, out of all the platforms, they've sort of been the least to take off. However, best practice is you use, between one and like really no more than 5 or 6. And I found that like, if you can incorporate them throughout the caption that you're writing, where it makes sense, it's kind of like, it's more to use like aesthetic or visually, like calling the attention to like the big topic, right? There are specific ones on LinkedIn, so you definitely want to use like the ones that are used, and kind of like being able to go into that feed. And there's also ways that people use them. So like, I mean, you can search for things under a hashtag. Like if your strategy isn't really even posting your own content, for example, and your strategy is about like sharing other things, you might search for things under a specific hashtag, and then that your target audience would follow, and then pull things to share from there. So like there is advantages to using them. The way that all the platforms are going is really SEO, and so it's keyword. And they're making all the social media platforms more increasingly about like searchable by keywords and things like that. So, but like I said, they're still there. They're still on LinkedIn. They're still valid. They take them, and so, why not to me, it's like, why not do yourself a favor and like use a couple, that makes sense. I've tested with or without them and all of that. And I don't see a huge difference as far as engagement and reach and things like that. But as far as best practice, they're a tool and you can use them.
Gotcha. How about images? How important are images on LinkedIn?
So I've seen posts work very, very well that don't include them. And the nice thing about that is without an image, you can see more of the text as you scroll without having to hit read more. And right now, to me, posts that don't use any kind of image, that are just text, actually stand out a little bit more, because so many of us just use stock images as it is. There's people that clients that I post for, that I do a mixture of both to just kind of see, if it comes like there's a really big indication that one way is better than the other. And I haven't found that necessarily. I found posts that work well both ways. So I would say, if you do use an image, try to keep in mind an image that goes along with what you're saying, and not literally just use a person typing on a computer every time, just throw an image in there. Like, still try to make it something that resonates with the major topic that you're trying to bring attention to.
On the side note to that, one of the things, and I'm speaking to the audience here, not you, Ray, but one of the things that I can vouch for what Ray is saying is that when she helps me with my LinkedIn stuff, I've always noticed that she would change certain things from the post that I had, if she wants to share an article, let's say, and add her own twist to it. And it's always a lot better than what I had. So kudos. Just wanted to let you know. It's so funny. I remember when I first was noticing it, I'm like, oh, she totally just changed the image. But I'm like, wait a minute, that's a better image.
Well, not
So that's good.
it's not necessarily that though too. It's that, like, if I've used something multiple times, like if like we're promoting a blog, but I'm pulling out different points of it, I don't want to just have the blog's image that we've already used. So like I'll post it once with that one, and then I'll change up the image so that like it's doesn't look like we're posting the same thing all the time, because we're reusing, like we're pulling out different points from a bigger piece of content and things like that. So like that's where I try not to really recycle images. I mean, I know that used to be really frowned upon, but it seems like, a lot of people repost the same things like every couple of months. Like they literally have, like, they just pull like their best of and then recycle and reuse them and stuff like that. So that seems to be like a lot more acceptable these days. And it definitely, like, not necessarily like it used to. The thought process used to be that the algorithm didn't like it. And but now it's like if you wait a couple months, it doesn't seem to be really that problematic. So, but I've just, like I said, I've always been in a habit of trying to do various images, just so that we don't have the same thing going out all the time.
Gotcha. Speaking of various images, what's well, I guess there's another two-part question. Does LinkedIn have a carousel type post ad, or that doesn't exist with LinkedIn, right? It's just a one image platform.
Yeah, which it stinks, because it would be nice. Like Instagram seems to have the lockdown on that, where it's like you can slide through these images, and it would be cool because there's a lot to be said, like infographic wise, that would work really well on LinkedIn. Like a lot of really nice pieces that would slide together to, educate, provide value to your audience, that would work well. So, I mean, I think people do it in different ways. There's now like, Instagram has like the taller dimension that you can post and stuff. So I think that works well. And you can throw a document on there and stuff like that. So there's kind of like different ways to like do it, but I do agree where the carousel would be cool. I mean, all you do really is you could have that kind of way of presenting something, and then you just make a quick snippet video of it, where a video just slides through it. And then that movement, the nice thing on LinkedIn is because like, that movement of a video and stuff, would be helpful to people to hit play,
to draw attention kind of thing.
Right.
Question for you about another question that's always pointed towards me, because I talk to a lot of attorneys and a lot of business people in general. What is the difference between the newsletter on LinkedIn and the articles on LinkedIn? No one seems to see a difference, and I'd be very frank with you, no pun intended. I don't see the difference. So please enlighten me and enlighten the audience on what is the difference, and and which is better.
So LinkedIn newsletter is a really great tool. And the reason is because if you have a newsletter, that the first time you publish one, so you can create one, but the first time you publish one, LinkedIn automatically asks all of your connections to subscribe to it. And every time new connections are added, they are asked to subscribe to it automatically as well. So if you publish regularly, what happens is that somebody gets a notification in their LinkedIn inbox that it's, an newsletter's been published. Somebody gets an email to their actual email. So it goes out as a newsletter on LinkedIn, and it also goes out in their email to their email addresses. So even if you don't have the email addresses, your connections, it will go to their email automatically if they've subscribed.
Nice.
And it also goes out as a post. And there was kind of like, I mean, this is an older tool now, but when it first came out, is like the algorithm was probably favoring them because it's like a newfangled tool, and like, LinkedIn wants people to use them, right? So there's it's kind of like a triple dip on one piece of content, which is really nice. If you just publish an article, it's kind of like any other post or piece of content where, like, some people may get notifications in their inbox like, oh, your so-and-so connection published an article that you might be interested in. It's, it's up to the algorithm if it's going to pick it up and whatever.
Right.
So, publishing articles on there prior to LinkedIn newsletter was a nice way of, if you didn't have a website or a blog or something, it was a nice way to have a place where you could put long form content like that information in there. And then if it was geared towards, your profession and things, you'd be able to share it out as a post, and then people, hopefully get a conversation going about what you wrote about. It also, though, previously was a way to, if you did have a blog, and newsletter is the same, if you do have a blog, you can repurpose that information. So it's like you're already doing the long form content. It's a way to like repurpose it. So it's nice. And then again, with social media being much more heavily involved with SEO these days, it is nice for, a well-rounded, organic SEO, even if it's just for your name being synonymous with particular keywords, like, in the case of an attorney, family law, Miami or something. There's that piece to it too. So that's the main difference. So you can still just publish an article without building a newsletter and having like a regular thing, just like you always could. But the newsletter is really that new tool where it's a great way to get, make the most of your LinkedIn connections.
Seems like the major difference is that you get notified of the newsletter more so than that you posted a new article.
Oh,
is
yeah.
is that fair?
Absolutely. Because anybody that's subscribed gets a notification in their inbox. Plus they get the newsletter itself goes to their actual email.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I had heard rumors. Not sure if this is true or if you've even heard of this rumor that LinkedIn was actually thinking about getting rid of articles because of the success of newsletters. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything, but that's not to say that, I'll tell you about LinkedIn and what I found, because it can be very glitchy. It seems to me like they make a lot of decisions, and it's kind of like the tech people are making the decisions. So it's for technology's sake, as opposed to really thinking about business ramifications and how people are actually using the platform. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're just like, oh, this is kind of becoming passe. They're, them just kind of getting together and being like, this is becoming passe. We're gonna get rid of this. I can tell you a smart thing that they did, which was putting the scheduler in the posts, where you can schedule your posts right there on the platform now, because that I think helped users time on the platform probably go way up, using, getting out of people doing third-party scheduling to staying in the platform to do the scheduling. I think is probably was a really good move. So they do make good decisions sometimes. But we'll see. I mean, all these platforms are always trying to come up with the newest thing that users are going to, just go bananas for. So we'll see. If newsletters, not newsletters, I'm sorry, if articles are going away, I would think that there's going to be something new coming down the pike then.
Yeah. And I didn't hear it from a good source, but I was just hearing some rumors. Question for you. I have a ton of questions. I don't want to make this episode too long, but it's so much that I want to learn, and I'm sure the audience wants to. But like, for instance, let's talk about groups on LinkedIn, and let's talk about the LinkedIn business pages. I have yet to see the value on both of those. I have a business page. Unless I sponsor links, even when I do sponsor links, nothing great happens. And then groups, you own a group, you run a group, whatever. I don't see like the monetary benefit of it. People ask me all the time, and I'm like, don't do it. Am I educating them correctly and saying don't do it? Or do you see the value in groups, number one, and number two, how can we optimize the business page? And is it necessary?
Yes. So regarding the groups, I would say there was it's kind of like anything else. If you got in before the bandwagon happened, you might have done really well. I'll give you a case in point. The biggest and best real estate networking group on LinkedIn is called the Pete Asmus Real Estate Investor Group. So if you're a real estate investor, people, you need to know people, right? And stuff like that. So it's good for reach out and using for networking. That group, I think, has now 1 million+ real estate investing related professionals in it. And so, I've never hung out in there. I'm not a real estate investor. So it's I've never hung out in there. So I can't really tell you the history or the original idea of what it was supposed to do. I don't know if that guy started it and then he was having content and it went gangbusters, and he's a content person or whatever. But now his name is now completely synonymous with real estate investing just by having that group, because it's so huge. It's literally unavoidable. If you you go on LinkedIn, like if I'm a brand new real estate investor, if I change my title and put put in there now that I'm a real estate investor, LinkedIn, the algorithm would probably pick up the Pete Asmus group and say, hey, Ray, you're an investor. You should try this group because there's like a million people in it, right? So it's like, so there's that piece of it. And the idea is that like, if you start your own group and you start, positioning yourself and having, posts that are value to your target audience and stuff. And that was kind of the idea, is positioning even more specific targeting of being able to position yourself as an expert in your field to your target audience. So, and by providing educational kind of value and stuff in posts, similar way to how people use Facebook groups, right? And there's that point of it. I would say you really have to, if it's going to be part of your strategy, you got to work it, for sure. And, then when people are in groups and stuff, again, you have the chance that the algorithm is going to actually notify them and say, there's a new post in blah, blah, blah group that you'd be interested in, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing is that now it's much more sophisticated. Like now on certain people that you're connected with, you can hit the bell on their profile. So you get the notifications if you like anytime they post, like you'll get a notification about it, as opposed to
every time they post in the group, you're saying?
No, in general. So you can go to somebody's particular profile. Like you can go to my profile and be like, oh, Ray's stuff is always so interesting, and hit the bell on my profile. So it always goes to your notifications now whenever I post. So you don't have to rely on seeing it in the algorithm or checking my profile all the time and be like, oh, did Ray post, right?
Like so you mean like YouTube?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So they have
interesting
that on people's profiles now. So to me, the other thing is that you can, when you connect with somebody, it's like LinkedIn will automatically have you follow them. And that's been a big benefit of why people do content on LinkedIn. Whereas a platform like Instagram, they have to follow you back, right? So like if you go for follows, people actually have to click and follow you back. Whereas as soon as somebody accepts your connection request, they're following you. Now, but you can unfollow people too. So like that's the whole thing too. So like you can be connected to somebody and then like clean out the people you follow and be like, I really only want to see content that's related to, my own industry because I'm looking for tips. So I'm going to unfollow everybody in my network that's not that. So like there's these ways of personalizing your own experience just by playing with settings like that I think has made that advantage for groups not as prominent, if you know what I mean. Like a couple of years back, there wasn't any of that. So it was like, if you got somebody in your group, like it's, it's really, there's a big advantage there if you're regularly posting content in it. So yeah, so it's kind of like, that's where I think the groups have gone. And now like Facebook, I mean, it's like there's groups galore and LinkedIn has like a gajillion billion groups. So if you have something like, if you have a group yourself and you're doing invites to people and then a way to kind of keep professionally all of these people connected and in one circle, there's still some value there that you can have, because it's kind of like, okay, we're all business people in the same community, trying to kind of keep in contact with each other and stuff. So there's a way to kind of like organize connections too, and some value in using groups for that.
Interesting. Wow, I'm glad I asked. That's very good information. I did not know about the bell thing.
Yeah, that's newer. It's newer, definitely from 2023.
Okay, so. Gotcha. So it just came out last year.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's the value in the business pages? I mean, do you see any value on that?
Yes, you should have business pages, because if you have your own business, again, it's about that professional looking piece of your profile where you're actually connected to a real business, a real company. And, for SEO purposes and things like that, it is important to have one. Now, because LinkedIn has really tried to prioritize its ad services, posts on business pages, kind of like Facebook. It's like they want you to pay for the advertising, right? So,
right.
But they did throw a bone to business pages relatively recently where you can select your target audience on posts from business pages now. And the target audience has to be at least 350. So you have to have like at least that many followers and then be able to like use the filters. So like, for example, I want to target, realtors. I'm a mortgage broker and I have my own little business. And it's
Right.
like, I've invited, I have like, like let's say 1,500 people that follow my business page.
Right.
I now can just choose to target realtors and use just the industry real estate and like a title realtor or something.
Gotcha.
And if that's, over 350, I think that's the limit, 350. If that's over 350 people, that you can use that as a target audience. So that means your posts aren't being wasted on people that are not in the industry. Just from the business page, they do not have that ability on a personal profile, which of course, so it's like, you could say like, well, if I post on the business page and then I can share over from my, to my personal, you can do things that way, but the algorithm caught on very quickly to like people just doing it that way. And it's kind of like, you're better off like posting. If you're going to post on a business page, also post it off your professional or your personal profile.
Gotcha.
Because it's going to get more reach. I mean, it just is, off the personal profile, you're going to get more organic reach.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Okay. So I know I said I was going to try to keep this short, but it's hard because I'm learning a lot. I'm having a blast here. I'm sure the audience is as well. But I do know you're a busy woman. But last few questions here, if you don't mind. Let's talk about creator mode. I get a lot of questions about that. Should someone take a creator mode versus a standard mode, and what are the differences?
Yep. So just a standard is just like, okay, your basic. There's just a couple of other tools that they offer to creator mode. So if you go into creator mode, that's when you can open your newsletter, right? If you don't switch to creator mode, you don't have that ability on your profile. So if you go to creator mode, you can add a link to the top of your profile, which before was never on the profiles before. And there's no, even the about section, hyperlinks don't work. So it is a really cool way to be able to add like a nice simple call to action to the top of your page. So like, for example, for mine, for the longest time, I had like level up on LinkedIn, and then it went to like the page on my website where people can get LinkedIn services. So, and it could be very simple too. Like if you just want people to kind of like get interested by your headline and then find out more about, Frank Deming, ESQ, you could just say, learn more, or just, my website here, whatever. And have that. So there's that. And then also you can have selected there's hashtag strategy that's important on here. So supposedly you can pick out up to 5 hashtags that are listed at your top headline. So like basically calling out the topics that you talk about. So like for mine, hashtag LinkedIn strategy, right? Now, if I have a post and I use that hashtag, supposedly the algorithm gives me like bonus points and like my reach goes a little further. If I use a hashtag that I've put on my profile. Gotcha. I've heard that. I don't actually know if that's true. So, you can.
Guess we'll test it out, right?
Right. Another point on hashtags, actually, and this is a smart one. people have asked me about hashtag strategy and branded hashtags. So a way that people use branded hashtags, like basically hashtags were only they're going to use. So hashtag the local business guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then if you search that hashtag, only those posts that you've used that hashtag on come up. So it's a way of like being able to refer back and see what you posted and like keep your posts organized in LinkedIn. So like there's also like kind of a way to use those personal hashtags or, you know, personal branding or whatever, branded hashtags.
But they would have to know because, you know, like for instance, no one would know there's a hashtag the local business guy, for instance.
No, but if they started typing in the local, it would come up because it was a hashtag that's been used. So
gotcha.
So it would, you know, so there could be a way to use them that way. Just on a side note about hashtags, because I didn't mention that earlier.
Mm-hmm. Awesome sauce. Well, thanks, man. This has been really, 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 really great, Ray. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate this. But before I let you go, let me ask you, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think was going to benefit the audience?
No, I think we really covered like a bulk of what, you know, I think would be helpful for somebody, you know, just coming on. And then, you know, there's various ways to get involved on LinkedIn and increase visibility. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be writing blogs and posting all the time. There's ways to jump into conversations and develop rapport with influencers and things like that, where, you know, it's kind of like developing strategy is about using your strong suits and also what's realistic. Like, you know, you could spend 8 hours a day on LinkedIn if you wanted to, developing strategy. And so, you know, it's all about too, like, you know, if you want to go on LinkedIn and have some kind of a strategy, think about what's feasible and what you can actually stick to. Because if you don't do it regularly or consistently, it's not gonna give you any results. I mean, you have to, it's like any marketing strategy. So whether you're paying somebody or you're doing it yourself, I mean, there's various ways of working with your strong suits on there and, you know, and developing something.
100%. So now that you say that,
yeah,
how can someone who's listening to this get a hold of you? What's you know, how can, if someone says, you know what, I like what she just said, I need her to help me with my LinkedIn. How can we make that happen?
Just my website, raygreenup.com. So that's RAEGREEN as in Nancy, IP as in Peter.com. And
awesome
all my info's on there. And then you can register, you know, you can sign up for like a Biz Jam session, which is like my little consult and stuff and, you know, all that.
Awesome sauce. I will definitely put a link to that in the show notes of this. I will also put a link to your LinkedIn if anyone wants to just check out what Ray Greenup is all about. I'll put a link to that as well in the show notes. You know, that's it. I really, really enjoyed this episode. I hope everyone else did as well. If you're driving out there, look up Ray. She will definitely rock out your LinkedIn profile, number one. And then number two, make your LinkedIn presence visible so that way you can make 2024 your year to shine, succeed, and explode. So with that, I'm going to put an end to this episode. This has been a really, really great episode. This is Frank Deming, the local business guy, and you've just been blessed by the great Ray Greenup. Take care, everyone. Until next week. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms, the podcast that provides you with all the latest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you would like to know more about the topic we discussed in the show today, reach out to Frank and his team at 888-416-7752 and schedule a discovery call with one of the marketing consultants. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, send an email to podcast@lbmsllc.com and we will put you on the schedule. With that being said, until next week, make it a successful digital marketing day. Peace out.